Hello and welcome back to the Watson Weekend, your weekly dose of e-commerce entertainment. We are your hosts. I'm Rick Watson.
I'm Jessica Lisewski, dusting off those cobwebs.
Yeah, this one is going to be rough o'clock for a show because we haven't done this in a couple of months now. Just a reminder, we are not professionals at this.
No. We're not. We're not going to win Pulitzers here, but we hope that we're bringing a little fun to your Friday and exploring some new angles on the latest trends and retail e-commerce headlines. Thank you, Edward. You are always here. Really appreciate it. So we're so glad to be back. And I think want to talk first about, the sponsor of our show. So this show is sponsored by BigCommerce. And we are really appreciative. They are our partners, not only in platform, but also related to country music. We're going to dive into that a little bit. And I think we're going to get into the summer. And we talked about our Flashback Friday, which is a new segment that we're introducing. We're not going that far back into time. This one, we're going to just kind of hit it and just go first into what happened this summer. So, Rick, if I don't know if you're with us, you might be frozen a little bit here, but we can kind of hit on what's happening over the summer.
Yeah, could you guys hear me? Is this thing on?
It's on now. Yeah, we can hear
Awesome.
you. We got a little freeze frame, but we can hear you.
Yeah, video looks great to me. I don't know what's happening with the LinkedIn, but yeah, the summer was interesting. A lot of family travel, learning new things that a newborn can do, and then adjusting as quickly as possible when you realize you're not prepared for it. So that has been each week in the household. So yeah, we're excited about that.
You're in your baby proofing era. Is that what we would say?
Yes. Yeah. We're baby proofed ish.
Nice. All right. Well, my summer was pretty amazing. I did the travel and I went abroad with like a couple hundred thou of my closest friends. I think everyone was in Italy this summer, and I was there with my family and friends. It was amazing, and that sounds kind of cliche, but it really was the trip of a lifetime. And I bumped into a couple other really close friends. Vinny, we're going to roll a video, I think.
Yeah.
Kendall Jenner,
Yeah.
Tom and Zendaya. Yeah, we're really close. They were trading books. Anna Kendrick and I saw the Coliseum together. And who can leave out J-Lo?
J-Lo.
Yeah, J-Lo and I had who had the better bod competition. I lost. Yes. And we're gonna pour one out for Bennifer.
Bennifer was not there.
Bennifer was not there.
The only American not in Italy this summer.
He was the only person not in Italy this summer. So yeah, so that was pretty much my summer. And I think you have one more summer story to share, right?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things that happened this summer that I was tracking from a retail news point of view. Things that I didn't expect to see, in particular, like Amazon signing a deal with TikTok. That was surprising. That happened in the last couple of months. Did you ever think you would see that, Jess?
No, I didn't. But, something has to happen, because if you look at where Amazon's owned search for so long, right? Like 56% of consumers are starting their search on Amazon. We start to see these social networks encroaching on the territory, right? Gen Zers are using they're social first, right? Social commerce is really coming into play. So I think, this is Amazon on offense, or are we calling it defense? They're on some kind of fence.
Yeah, it's on a fence. I think they are trying to ensure that they're not left out of kind of the social commerce revolution. The consumers are looking for inspiration, and they expect the inspiration to come to them rather than search around the internet from everywhere. That seems so 20 years ago. So I think that's the story. That's the first story. How about your most interesting summer story?
Yeah, I thought that what was interesting around summer stories that we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Lots of things happening in the C-suite in retail and lots of shakeups. And that's one of the stories we're going to get to later. It felt a little more momentous maybe than summers past. And, the big commerce summit, the big summit happened, and it sounded like there was a lot of momentum coming out of that. You were there. And I'd love to just kind of hear a couple of highlights that you have from that show.
Yeah, look, Big Commerce has had a couple of big announcements in the last year. One is Travis Hess coming on as president of the division. He has the great silver hair. I have the great black hair. So we had a dueling hair battle. It's not clear
nice.
who won that one.
Okay.
The other one is they acquired content management front end, MakeSwift, which they look to see to integrate into their front end. And so I think that's a direction that they're going to be taking. Finally, it's like B to B to B to B to B. Like the whole thing is B2B. And so I think that's going to be a big direction for the big commerce as they go kind of toward the next step of their evolution. And by the way, they're not selling, apparently.
Yeah.
The CFO says they're not selling. At least they've told Wall Street they're not selling. So it's not smart to tell a financial analyst you aren't selling if you actually are selling. So I guess at this point, we have to take their word for it.
Door is shut. Yeah. So
Yeah.
there we go. And I think we have a little ditty to share on your time at the Big Summit.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Big Summit was at Austin City Limits Live, which some great performers were there, and I was on the same stage that some of these great performers were on, just not at the same time.
Okay. All right. Let's hear.
Playing with Big Commerce by his side, he's chasing down digital gains. Well, I heard about a man named Rick Watson riding the e-commerce plane.
How do they come up with this?
With Big Commerce by his side, he's chasing down
some of the highest
gains.
Production talent in the industry right now. I'm just
With
Right.
Travis Hess in the
There he is.
And Sharon G.
I see why the hair
riding.
battle was on point.
They're the fastest clickers in
Is that the
West.
emoji version of
Profit's
me?
what they steer.
Looks like it. Is that your memoji?
I think that's my emoji. They took
All
that
right.
from my iPhone.
Do we want to tell people where they can find this whole track?
Yeah, I think the track is available. We're going to drop that in the comments. By the way, if you have any great summer stories right now, definitely feel free to share them in the chat. We will we'll be talking about that throughout the show.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're going to get now into our headline hangover, which is, if you're new to the show, this is where Rick and I talk about some of the headlines each week that have caught our eye, give our little spin on what's been happening and what we think about it ultimately. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. So we're going to kick it off with Dollar General reducing their guidance. And they're saying basically the consumer is not resilient, which is opposite of what we have been hearing all year long from entities like NRF, other analysts who are saying, look, consumers still have cash, still spending, no signs of slowdown, which basically implies there will be no rate cut this year. The tune certainly shifted, especially as people have gotten into their Q2 earnings, Dollar General being one of them. If you don't know, 35,000, the customers who spend 35,000, make 35,000 annually, makes up about 60% of their revenue. And this is where Todd Vassos, the CEO, is saying that they're feeling pressure. And certainly, that customer's under the most financial strain, which is really hitting the wallet of Dollar General. Little pun here. It's kind of interesting, though. If we go to Todd's commentary in 2020, we're going to flash that up. And this was from a recap of a story that John Oliver ran last year, where John Oliver was digging into the underlings and the underbelly of these dollar stores in general. And Todd said, look, I will tell you, we do very good in good times and we do fabulous in bad times. You think he's eating a little bit of crow here, Rick?
Yes, he is eating more than a little bit of crow, especially if you look at the shape that the stores are in. And it seemed like Dollar General got Temu'd in this market.
They sure did. Yeah, there is a Temu situation. I mean, do we think Walmart's picking up some of these customers? Todd said, look, don't worry, guys. We recognize we've got some pressure here. The customer's pressured, but we're going to control what we're going to control. And we're going to own what we can own. And he talked about they needed to improve their stores. He talked about they also need to improve how they handle their inventory. And this next shot we're going to show you is pretty telling. And yeah, so this was from a customer. Same thing, same from that segment last year. If you have not seen it, it's really telling about the state of just dollar stores in general and where they're squeezing to save money. It's stores, associates, employee experience.
There are no store associates anymore. You can't find them.
There's like one person in the store, and that's essentially what they were saying. But this customer on TikTok is posting, "Hey, I'm just trying to get staples," and they are about 20 feet that way. So when your customer cannot get through the aisles, Houston, we have a problem. So yeah.
It's a big issue. Look, the consumer is not resilient in the dollar store. They're resiliently shopping somewhere else. And so I think that's the story here from the headline hangover. And John Oliver certainly called that out. Yeah. The next story in their headline hangover is interesting. It's like Walmart is actually taking aim at eBay. And if you look at things that you would never expect to get at a Walmart, probably high-end sneakers and Marvel comic book collectibles might top your list. Yet Walmart's category expansion seems to continue, taking aim at a combination of eBay and Amazon. They have introduced a collector shop where they're now accepting pre-orders for upcoming things like trading cards, sports memorabilia, comic books, records. I'm not sure if people want to shop for these on Walmart, but they're going to be there. They've also signed a big partnership with StockX, who has been looking to recover. And, they've had some funding challenges. Now it appears that Manish at Walmart, who is a former eBay and Amazon execs, means like, it sounds like the joke's on everyone else but Walmart. And like Manish is just adding like random stuff to the website and it's like, you guys figure it out. We're going to put it up there and see what happens to the shopping experience. Is this a net positive or a net negative to the shopping experience of Walmart, Jess?
I think, look, it's going to stay online. And if they carve it off and how they merchandise it will ultimately be the tell here. It wasn't a surprise if you look at the hires, right? So Bob Means, who was head of trading cards at eBay, joined the Walmart marketplace team. And so we're sure we're going to make a play here. And if you think about that affluent consumer that they're trying to get into the Walmart ecosystem, maybe this is another way to get it. I think it is interesting that when you look at the categories and the expansion, where they're going, and in the Mark Lowry days, they were getting there through acquisition. Now they're just saying like, hey, we're doubling down on marketplace, and that'll be the dumping ground and the testing ground for all this stuff. I really wonder ultimately what this is. Is this like another, knife in the coffin for eBay?
Yeah, I mean, look, eBay is not going anywhere. Amazon's not going anywhere, but Walmart keeps growing. And so it seems like eventually there's this collision between Walmart, Amazon, Temu, all these dollar stores. It's like a Royal Rumble here. And you have to wonder, where does eBay fit anymore in an era where everything is just so cheap anyway? Like, do you need to do price discovery on eBay if you can buy something so cheap?
Maybe not. I mean, look, eBay's always been the place where someone goes for the unique and hard to find, one time a year, if that. So, if some
Right.
rando part on my car, or I need a catalytic converter, yeah, maybe I'll go to eBay. But sounds like the rest of it, I can find it at my local Walmart or .com, or hit up Amazon, and then I'm covered. Soon to be
Exactly.
Temu.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got another story for us?
Yeah, our next story is Ryan Peterson continues his Flexport rehabilitation tour as he gets on a video with Chris Walton, who's another retail media expert. And in fun fact about the interview, he says 71 times during the 5-minute interview, and still explaining what Flexport does. They're trying to be the cheapest or the fastest. They're invested in a lot of technology. They've acquired a bunch of companies, yet it still seems to be a very people-heavy business. And it's unclear how, in such a low margin category for a company that's raised hundreds of millions of dollars, how do you break out of this situation and rehabilitate your image and grow profitably at the same time?
Yeah.
Is there a Rubik's Cube puzzle solution to this problem?
I don't know. I think that they need to invest in some life support equipment, because it feels like, or they've got 9 lives. So it was super interesting to watch this interview, but I don't think that wearing a button-up shirt and sweater combo is the answer.
Yikes. Yeah, that could be a challenge. And I think as we go forward, look, logistics, Amazon has all the facilities. How much can you invest in North American logistics that's going to make a dent compared to, the biggest players in the market? Walmart's adding, something we didn't mention in the Walmart story. They're adding their own fulfillment services. They have added a competitor to Amazon MCF, which is like you could fulfill any multi-channel order from a Walmart. You can also import global logistics cross-border from China or from the Far East to your own warehouse using Walmart, similar to Amazon Global Logistics. And so the question is, will a retailer with such global scale like Walmart and Amazon, they're not going to be disrupted by a player like Flexport? It's just not going to happen.
No, it's not. So yeah, where do they play?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a challenge. But our next one, speaking of importing from China, I think we have a fun story for you next.
Well, if you had on your bingo card, we would come back and talk about Shein or Temu. You've already checked off those, because now we're hitting you with a Shein story. They have done their annual sustainability report. You can find it on their website. It's basically the love letter of all the good that they're doing in the world. And it's really impressive, Rick. I mean, I want to break it down for you, though. The good news is they're also very forthcoming and transparent, because they did say that they found 2 instances of child labor infringement against their policies, and they have done appropriate remediation. These are the actual technical terms, where they're canceling those contracts with the manufacturer. So we're saying in the thousands of suppliers that Shein works with, only 2 cases.
Only 2. Self-reported, apparently.
Self-reported, which always means they're telling the truth. So the other thing that was in this just very detailed document, which outlines all their sustainability goals, and their sustainability goals don't just worry about the labor practices, but it spans sustainable materials and more green oriented manufacturing facilities and all of those things. One of the highlights in when you talk about the humanity of it all is what they're doing in supporting childcare. So let me just show you.
Childcare seems important for a company like.
Yeah, look, like childcare is a big deal. When you've got all of these employees, you've got basically all of these facilities. They want to make it better for those working parents. So they've taken $150,000, invested to stand up a total of 10 childcare facilities where they're running summer camps. I just want to show you this beautiful image of these children who are at these summer camps. And these are all the stats that you can also see of all the good that they're doing and the upgrading to their facilities and
Look at all these
training.
look at all these happy workers entering the facility. Oh wait,
Right.
no, this is the child
No,
care shot.
this is the summer camp. Look at the back of the
Oh,
t-shirt. It's not, no. But it does pose the question, like, what do you think they do at these summer camps? Do you think that they do some like, hands-on training just to prep for the futures, like garment making, or is your mathematic problem like, if I work 75 hours a week and I make 1,000 yen a month, which is like $600, what can I afford? Do you think that that's a math
I
problem?
think it's how to run a knitting machine 24/7, 365, and
Yeah.
produce the smallest lots available so that we can launch 30,000 styles a week.
Yeah, there we go. So
Solve.
that is the math problems that we're working through. Again, we are fueling the future of Shin here, and I guess my real question, Rick, is like, who cares? And I don't mean that in a negative way. I care. I think it's really important that companies are doing good in the world, but is this really going to change the like nature of their shopper? Like, are their shoppers reading this? Who is this for?
No one. It's for the governments. It's a Hail Mary for the governments. Like, please don't shut us down. Please don't regulate us. We're doing good in the world. It's firmly PR. We've talked on this show before. If you call up the Shein compliance department, it's the compliance/marketing department. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And so when you get to the end of it, what do you have? You have a company that it's pretty opaque how they do business, where they do business, and the consumer in the US has kind of been trained not to care
Right.
because it's a little bit out of sight, out of mind. It's a little bit like sustainability when you talk about it. Does a consumer care in a self-reported survey? Does a consumer care about sustainability? Oh yes, it's my top priority. The earth is fits for the children. Like the place needs to be here for our children and grandchildren. Like
Yeah.
right
Better
after
watch.
my $3 Temu item gets here.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is a little bit counterintuitive that we say Gen Z is the generation that cares the most about the future, yet they are happy to get their $10 sneakers shipped from either TikTok shop or Temu.
Exactly.
Or
With minimal lead.
Minimal lead. Yeah. last two wears, but hey, we're all good. You know who is doing good in this world, and it is Calvin Klein, because they have brought us the next chapter in their campaign with Jeremy Allen White. There was a bit of a miss here because there were no tidy whities, which like Jeremy Allen White tidy whitey. Yeah, that's my run at comedy. Jimmy Kimmel, I'm coming for you. But look, this new installment was released on Tuesday. It debuted this fall collection, which, if you haven't heard, Rick, the 90s are back. So the 90s are back in a big way, and Calvin Klein was starting to debut some of that. So this has paid off. All jokes aside, 39% increase in sales since their first ad released. So Whitey is kicking it for
Speaking of the
CK.
90s, my sister-in-law just went to a Pearl Jam concert in Chicago. So they're coming back.
Yeah. It's also Oasis announced that they're going to have a reunion tour, and I'm there for it.
Oh, so, yeah.
Just saying. All right. You got the last one. Bring us home.
Yeah. The last one is that Amazon seems to be growing faster than Google from an advertising point of view. And so I think that is the challenge now. Amazon has officially become the third largest digital advertising platform behind Google and Meta. Google has a $250 billion advertising business, which is 5 times larger than Amazon's. But over the past 4 quarters, Amazon is growing twice as fast as Google. And so the question is Amazon becoming an advertising company? Can Amazon actually challenge the top 2 advertising platforms out there? And what would it mean for the market and for retailers and advertisers?
Yeah, for sure. They're already an advertising company, and it's I think it's a place where we've already talked about consumers go first and foremost when they think about, I need a product, they're going to Amazon. They've been taking share from Google. I think it's just a question of where does it go from here, because they haven't really tackled that grocery space, which if you look at, yes, there's like retail media, but when you go to offline, Amazon doesn't really have a play. So, it feels like that's the next big frontier they need to figure out how to tackle. But I guess they're doing it with Prime. So
yeah, I mean, look, Amazon's still growing. They have said that their GMV is dropping slightly, but the transaction volume is still up. And so they're trying to figure out how to get cheaper items on the site. They have announced an initiative to Teamify Amazon somewhere on the website. And so
I thought that was lightning deals, but it's going to be a whole new section.
Yes, it's going to be a whole new section. You're going to spin the dial over and over and hope to get a good deal.
It's called a surprise in the box. You
Right.
know, you just get extra stuff in there.
Extra lead. That's the surprise.
Extra lead. It's okay. All right. Well, that's going to wrap for our headlines. If you guys think that there is something we missed, we should have covered, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And we're going to now.
Really, we would not have a show without comments. So please add your comments for the stories you would like to see us cover.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, we calling this Summer Lovin' or Summertime Sadness, Lana Del Rey style, because it was definitely a lot of shakeups happening in the retail landscape anyways, as it relates to the C-suite. I counted, at least like 14 or more major changes at some of these retailers. I don't know, Rick, what are you thinking? Like what is some of this? Like we'll cover, some of the moves, but just curious, like from a thematic perspective, what do you feel like is happening?
Yeah, for the thematic perspective, it's like moving day on the Masters, which is Saturday, which is like up or out. If you're at the top of the leaderboards on Saturday morning, it doesn't mean you'll be at the top of the leaderboards for the Masters at the end of the day, Saturday, heading into the championship day on Sunday. And I kind of felt like retail, really summer was the day. It was like, this economy is not going anywhere for a while. We can believe our results. And as a result, some people, you got to go. You overstayed your time.
It's time. It's time for a change. So so this isn't like your typical cycle of, people have stayed their tenure, had these illustrious careers, they're retiring and moving on. I think I found like maybe one or two instances of that where is it the CFO at Adidas is transitioning after their current CEO has been there 17 years. So like maybe that's an exception. But new CEOs at Victoria's Secret, Party City, Petco, Starbucks, Nestle, Diane von Furstenberg. Those are just a couple to name. Can
we talk about Starbucks for a second? Thank God. I mean, how much more could they F up that experience?
I don't know. That one for sure was overdue. And then the whole rumble of Homeboy is going to be commuting from San Francisco on a private jet. Deal.
What could go wrong? What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? I don't have to move. But P.S. we're going to keep our in-office policies. So, you guys don't make moves here. But Brian Nickel, he's going to be jetting setting from San Fran to Seattle.
Yeah, some other mentions were the COO of Saks, them requiring Neiman Marcus. How does Saks survive? A few years ago, they famously split across their e-commerce group to try to boost their valuation in a boondoggle chase of valuation. Stores is a different division. Is the stores division worth more now? Maybe they should reintegrate it. And like this, it's like the circle of grift that's happening here, where a consulting firm tells them they should break apart. That really satisfies the investors for a couple of years, and then a new consulting firm is hired to tell them to reintegrate, and that satisfies the investors for a few more years. What's next?
Yeah. And they also, their chief merchant left and went to QVC, which they're not backfilling that role. They're going to split it across to people who have been there, which we all know two people in one role really has no confusion, no conflict of interest, no challenge in decision making. That's really how we get things done. We get two of them.
Yeah.
So
And yeah, I mean, in other C level moves that I've seen, Shopify hired a new CTO. This one was a little bit of a surprise for me. Around the time, it was almost like there was like a 6-month period in Shopify's history where they made some moves thinking that the company is going to go up and to the right forever at this accelerated COVID pace. They hired a new VP of engineering who brought in 2 lieutenants, and they acquired Flexport. And then 6 months later, it's like, F this. This was a huge mistake. We're gonna eject, abort.
yeah,
Now they're bringing in a new CTO, but it seems to be like a different model where it's not someone who's like Toby's letting the reins off. It seems to me that Toby is remaining firmly in control, and they're adding a new talent. The head of former CEO of Microsoft Advertising, the former leader of Yandex, which is one of the basically the Google of Russia. These people like don't grow on trees. And so that level of talent coming into Shopify, it seems like a kind of a big move that they didn't have to make, which strikes me as like very different than some of these other C-level moves.
Right. Yeah. Like this is we could see ahead that growth could slow, but like we need another jolt, right? We need the next big thing, and we're going to bring in this talent. Some other things that was interesting. Walgreens, it's not a surprise given where their results have been. They've been closing stores. They've been doing layoffs. But they had 3 moves. They brought in a new chief merchant. They brought in a new chief digital or head of digital. So is this kind of a signal of we need another turnaround, or what do you feel like the Walgreens?
Yeah, look, rumor has it those former executives are locked up like all of the merchandise you see when you walk into a Walgreens. You can't fucking shop at this place. I don't understand it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I typically want to walk into a Walgreens and spend a good half hour trying to find someone to get my deodorant, my toothbrush, and my toothpaste. I mean, at this point, it's faster to order it on Amazon and have it delivered in an hour, or, get somebody at Instacart to like go get it. I mean, seriously, it could not be a worse experience. You're right.
If I wanted to walk over to every aisle and hit the button and wait for the person to show up, like I should have just stayed at home.
Yeah. Well, look, at least the aisles aren't cluttered with boxes. Like that might be their next level of defense. Like we're just going to throw things in the aisle so you can't get to them unless you are just really good at digging. So
that's Dollar General style right there.
That's Dollar General style. We're going to call it DZ merch. So Victoria's Secret, that was the one that I also wanted to unpack. And then I have one more question for you. So they brought in the former CEO at Savage and Fenty, which has really been, so this is like the Rihanna line, certainly a bit more risque in the lingerie category, but very more on the side of like female empowerment. Curious, like, can this brand be turned around, or is there too much coming at it? Like, now you have Skims, you have, Spanx, you have Wear Lively, you have all of these other lingerie brands that basically have been tearing Victoria's Secret apart. Like,
yeah, Victoria's Secret may be donezo. They have now launched in Walmart Beauty. And so, if you're a luxury brand that is previously aspirational, everyone remember the Victoria's Secret angels.
Yeah.
Would any of those angels be caught dead in a Walmart?
No. Negative ghostwriter. They will not be in a Walmart. They will not be. But they're bringing the pink line back. So if you want some booty joggers that are in pink and a cute little crop top, there you go. But you could also find that on Temu, and it'll get here in 4 weeks for a fraction of the price.
Right.
There we go.
Exactly.
All right. So my last question is there people that should have been on the list that wasn't on the list? Like, curious if there is somebody that you were surprised, you're surprised, like there's not been a shakeup more.
Yeah, there are a couple of things. One is probably at the top of my list right now is Nike. I think we've never seen a greater story of shareholder value destruction than the last 3 to 4 years of the John Donahoe reign of terror at Nike. And so say we're going to direct to consumer. We're a tech company. Isn't this fun and cool?
We don't need stores.
Mother, this is where consumers shop, in the store. Huh.
Mhm.
Okay. Let's
Yeah.
let's figure out this store thing.
Yeah.
So that, to me, that was a disaster waiting to happen. That still nobody's pulled the trigger on that one. My guess is you might see activist investors attacking Nike, which is something. Imagine hearing that 15 years ago with the performance of Nike. You would never even think
Never.
something like that would happen. The
No.
second one is Target. Target has been a little bit famously challenged in the last 2 years. A merchandise heavy company, a little bit higher margin profile than Walmart, has been challenged by this quote unquote resilient / not resilient consumer who's been struggling to make ends meet. And so
Right.
as a result is that the Target consumer is clearly trading down to Walmart. Target strategy, the question is it played out? And so the CEO has done a masterful job in the last 15 years to get the company to where it is now.
Right.
And they have 10 over $1 billion house brands, but is that the strategy that's going to get them for the next 10 years? It feels like this is a good transition time for the Target CEO. And if he, Brian Cornell, overstays his welcome, it may not be the best thing for the company.
Yeah, they did make some changes earlier this year. You're saying it's probably not enough. Like we need visionary, like really strategic pivot at this point versus let's keep doubling down on the playbook.
Exactly. I think they need a playbook reset. I think they need to be more marketing and acquisition focused rather than just focused on only their merchandise, which seems a slight bit out of step. I mean, look, they're going into a holiday season. We're in back to school right now, as you well know.
Yeah.
And so you have to walk into a Target. It's almost a requirement.
You do. And I will tell you from a personal experience, the selection was abysmal. Like it got cleaned out super fast. On some of just like the basics, like pencil cases and things like that, they maybe had 2 or 3 options, which pencil case, everyone is going to have one. And so, yeah, I'm in there on Amazon. Like I hate to admit it because my heart goes out. I've always been a Target shopper, but in there on Amazon comparing prices because like, am I going to buy this crappy thing that my child really doesn't want, or can I get something else in 2 days? And the answer was the latter. So I'm curious to see kind of how back to school performed for them, because it was not at least from a customer perspective and being there shopping, we couldn't get half the things that we needed on the list, and that was problematic, I think, for Target. To your point about Nike, they did make some moves. Just not at the C-suite. We didn't talk about them. They hired a new chief information officer. Is that really their problem? I guess
Not
maybe
sure.
if you're talking about profitability and, cost cutting, sure. But then they also hired someone to come in as head of like brands and marketplace partnerships. So I think that's interesting too, to see what does that signal? It signals that we're back, baby. We're going to hit you at a store near you.
Exactly. No, that's interesting. So I think we can wrap up the C-level moving situation and get into our stories too, which is really, where do all the platforms go? There are a number of themes that were brought up at BigSummit that I wanted to bring around about some things we learned, some things that are in the agency. We're in an interesting inflection point. It seems like we're kind of like in a bifurcated world where the B2B platform race is kind of wide open. And BigSummit, BigCommerce has placed early bets in that space with a couple of acquisitions, and they seem to be like very committed to that direction. And the other hand, you have in the direct consumer omni world, Shopify is rising, and really their big nemesis at the moment is Salesforce. And so you've seen Salesforce buy a point of sale system this year, Predict Spring, which is kind of an up and coming mid-market, lower tier enterprise solution. Would they have ever done that without Shopify? To me, the answer is no.
No.
And so I think Salesforce has experienced a lot of pressure. 2 years ago, unified commerce was kind of more of a buzzword. Now it seems like retailers are getting the message that if you show up in a store, the consumer expects you to know who they are and their shopping experience, and expect that experience to carry over to online. And so Shopify having a native built-in POS system, even if it's not quite at the enterprise level yet, they're investing behind it pretty aggressively. In the last 2 editions, Salesforce is kind of getting the memo, like, our contracts only have a couple more years on them. Like, can we catch up and create just like put some lipstick on this thing fast enough before everyone leaves us?
Yeah. Well, look, we talked about the
trying to mix all the metaphors.
You really nailed them. That's amazing. Yeah. So we talked about them at Shop Talk, and really commerce wasn't even a thing. They talked
Tableau.
about they did Tableau. Hey, we got Slack, guys. Here we go, shiny. So it is interesting to see that, like, they certainly can't just hit the eject button on the commerce strategy, because I think that messes up a lot of things that they've been building towards in this whole unification of even just an ecosystem, set aside unified commerce. What I thought was interesting is, I read the recap, certainly not being there with the big commerce summit, was there was a lot of talk among the agencies on some things that might be exclusively available to implement as an agency. Can you talk about that? Like, what's the agency ecosystem like? Is it different as you look across these platforms?
Yeah, I think the reality is agencies are in a different world in this sort of SaaS universe we're living in. Even Travis, when he was up on stage, he's been in agencies his whole career. And like, my summary is like, agencies are effed, because the days of these long-term maintenance contracts are over. And so as a result, I think agencies are much better off moving into like data strategy, growth strategy for some of these brands, rather than just assuming you can like fix bugs and ADA compliance issues indefinitely on a 10K retainer. Like, nobody wants that anymore.
Yeah. And PS, where are we talking about the customer? Like, at some point, we keep as retailers and in the industry, like, personalization and these personalized experiences. I have yet to see it done extremely well outside of recommendations. I mean, literally, even just talking about ticket sale. I bought tickets to go see the Cowboys and the Lions. I'll tell you why later. Like, I'm not, I am a Cowboys fan, but I bought the tickets, and I'm getting emails from SeatGeek. Hey, buy your tickets. I already bought them. Like, this is just down to the basics.
Yeah.
So it feels like agencies could really come in with better solutions of, you talked about data and normalization of data and getting the right infrastructure in place, but also just strategies and implementations of how do people actually achieve not just even personalization, but better connection to their customer, because we're not hitting the mark yet.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, did you just bury the Cowboys reference in there? Like, can we talk about the last time the Cowboys won a playoff game?
I know, I can't help it, you guys. Like, I grew up in the 80s. My dad is a huge Cowboys fan. I'm just like, it's forever in my heart. I gotta say, I'm like, I know Jerry Jones is scum and like Dax I get it. But it's like ingrained,
It's in your heart.
That's in my heart. And my son is a big Lions fan, and I can't explain that either. So this is like a gift to him.
No, exactly. Look, agencies, I think, have to adjust to this new world. I think the opportunities, the platform market is very strange, particularly in the direct-to-consumer side. The challenge is, and this is what I'm hearing from a lot of agencies, is that prospects are coming in with Shopify already chosen. They're like, hey, our board member said we have to use Shopify. Or the chief digital officer comes in, and now there's been like a generation of e-commerce managers and directors. I was talking about this with another colleague of mine this week, that's all they know. And so they're just going to bring in Shopify, and like somebody like an agency is going to build their site. We're going to do an RFP for the platform, but it's almost like the choose your own adventure, where every path leads to the same result. You ever remember those mazes?
Yeah.
You're like, you go around in circle, but like it still ends at the same place.
Yeah.
And so you're telling the board that you're like, oh, we went to this extensive platform discussion, but we knew we were going to choose Shopify anyway. And so I think there's a lot of that happening in e-commerce right now because of the momentum and that earned media. And if you think about earned media is so important, and everyone's trying to like, what's the perfect PR story that we can tell to the world?
Right.
That's your own media. But really, to me, the key to the next 10 years for any brand, any software company is your earned media. Like what's true that other people say about you. And right now, Shopify has that. Can I say it? On Snatch. Is that a word? Is that a new hip word? It used to be Fleek. And that was my word before, really.
Yeah. Well, I also said True Dat. Which I was explaining that to my kids, like why, instead of saying yes. Anyways, but yeah, so you're right. It is. And the stories, it's just the kind of tale as old as time, but the stories are really what other people say about you, not what you say about yourselves. And it really is important that companies, like whether it's BigCommerce, whether it's Shopify, whether it's Salesforce, what's the narrative that's out there? And it'll be interesting to watch kind of how it breaks down. Look, if I'm Shopify and I'm telling my own story, which I heard in an ad the other day, do I want to say use the checkout that Allbirds uses? I don't know.
What Allbirds? Maybe.
That was the ad.
It's not the checkout that's the problem, I think.
So, all right. Well, any other kind of closing things you'd want to say on this topic?
Yeah, no, I think, again, commerce is in a place where retailers and brands are realizing that they need to trade down. The trend seems to be simplicity, vendor consolidation. And if you're a SaaS vendor in the audience, like flat growth, because of all the trade down, people are reducing usage fees. They're cutting vendors they don't need. And so if you're a CEO or someone who works at one of these software companies, like hang in there is my best advice. Like you're probably doing better than the next person. Work on your churn, cut some of your like big fancy projects and go back to your core, like really focus on why people loved you to begin with, and go visit your customers more.
Yeah. Forge those relationships and I think also work through them to tell your story, because they're going to be your next best bet of where you find the client. I mean, look, when I was on the SaaS side, I got more referrals from the other retailers I built relationships with that were stronger than the ones that I was cold calling, full stop. So that's the name of the game.
Yeah, exactly. E-commerce is like a echo chamber inside of a village. It's a really small community. And so I think that's why folks like Tom and Travis going to BigCommerce is important, because they have a lot of relationships in the industry, and it matters who's calling on you.
Yeah. Yep. At least someone's going to take the call, right? When it's someone you trust. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're ready to wrap up the show. We have really appreciated you guys hanging with us as we dust off these cobwebs of coming back from summer break.
It's not going to get better for the next episode, just to be clear.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, we might be doing a few more mouth exercises, red leather, yellow leather, just like get the juices flowing. But yeah, if you guys have something you think we missed or a story you'd like us to dive into, please let us know. We hope you have an amazing weekend. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to dance.